Oh, and by the way, the title is no hyperbole either. Some of these writers that I'm going to talk about today have downright ludicrous levels of dedication and focus. They're not even human, they're quite possibly superhuman. Now, you may think you're a hard-working writer because you banged out a few articles on the web. No, you're not. You're nothing compared to these uber authors. So let's get started. Prepare to feel inadequate. First up is, without a doubt, a name that you've seen, because her books usually take up like a half mile of shelf space at the library. Her name is Danielle, the Woman of Steel. Danielle Steel. To date, this weapon of mass production has written 185 books, including 141 novels, over a career that spanned 6 decades and sold over 800 million copies. And the romance novel queen is still going strong. In the first half of this year alone, she pumped out 3 books, with 4 more planned for the rest of 2022, including one that just came out in June. She publishes 7 books a year, like clockwork. So what's her secret? Apparently, it's no sleep. According to an article in Glamour, she works practically non-stop, sometimes all 24 hours in a day if she's pressed for a deadline. Says Steel, dead or alive, rain or shine, I get to my desk and I do my work. For a true writing workaholic, you'd think Steel would have never had time for a personal life. But she actually has 9 children. 9! She's also been married 5 times, including one marriage to a man who was an inmate at a prison when she met him for a journalism assignment. Steel often juggles multiple projects at a time, outlining one, researching another, while writing and revising others, in order to maintain her prodigious output. She hardly eats, abstains from caffeine, scoffs at the very idea of burnout. She writes on a 1946 Olympia Standard typewriter. A fricking typewriter! As in that thing that Jack Torrance went mad click-clacking away at in The Shining. Steel also has no concept of so-called writer's block. Like every writer, she has tough days, sure. But this powerhouse offers this advice for the days when the muse is slow. Steel says, I keep working. The more you shy away from the material, the worse it gets. You're better off pushing through and ending up with 30 dead pages that you can correct later than just sitting there with nothing. Well, hey, that's easy for you to say, Miss Steel. You're a literal Terminator. Up next is a guy some people get mixed up with Stephen King. And that's because, like the horror master from Maine, he writes a lot of thrillers, some with supernatural elements. But to be clear, Dean Koontz has a style all his own. He mixes and matches with different genres, often blending them together into his own special recipe. Koontz is probably best known for the Odd Thomas series, which is about a short-order cook who can see dead people, but he's been writing novels since the late 1960s. Koontz has sold somewhere around 400 million copies of his books. The Wikipedia entry credits him with 91 books, but at this point it's likely at least 130 plus. You know, that's another sign that you're a robo-writer. Articles can't even keep up with how many books that you've actually written. Now don't dare ask Dean Koontz if he's working hard or hardly working. The Koontz Express is always rolling. So what is Mr. Koontz's recipe for earning consideration as one of the hardest working writers today? Koontz writes on the frequently asked questions section of his website about his daily habit, and he says, I work 10 and 11-hour days because in long sessions I feel I fall away more completely into story and character than I would in, say, a 6-hour day. But lest you think that Koontz regards his phenomenally successful writing career just like any other 9-to-5, the suspense master also mentions something special that keeps him motivated to churn out the pages. He says, I am enchanted by the English language, by its beauty and flexibility, also by the power of storytelling to expand the mind and lift the heart. In addition, the writer stays motivated by his charity, the Dean and Goethe Kuntz Foundation, which contributes to the severely disabled, critically ill children and dogs. Like his romance novelist counterpart Steele, Kuntz exhibits profound focus, eschewing TV, the internet, email, and other distractions. After first starting out on a typewriter, he eventually bought an IBM display writer, which he used to write for most of his career. Though recently, in 2020, he finally upgraded to a newer HP computer with Microsoft Word installed. The type of writing tools that Kuntz uses may seem just like trivia, but it actually highlights a way that he stays on task. Especially today with social media and texting. It's easy for a writer to get distracted. But with a machine like a display writer or a typewriter that can only perform a single operation at a time, all you have to be distracted by is the writing itself. In an interview with Harvard Business Review, Kuntz says, "By 6:30 a.m., I'm at my desk. Then I work until dinner. I rarely have lunch, because if I eat, I get furry-minded. I do that 6 days a week, or if I'm at the end of a book, 7. If it's the last quarter of a book, where the momentum is with me, I've been known to work 100-hour weeks." In addition, he credits his wife Gerda, whom he's been married to for 56 years, who helps manage all the practical concerns of life, like money and other domestic issues. This allows him to focus on the fiction side of things. So never underestimate the importance of a good, supportive spouse. That's true for writing, or for any career for that matter. So man, Kuntz and Steele are warrior writers without a doubt. Who could possibly top them? Well, it's time to talk about the Gran Jefa, the Queso Grande, the Gran Campeona herself. The grand prize for ridiculously prolific writer for the ages has to go to Spanish romance author Corinne Tellado. I found Senora Tellado's output mind-blowing. So much that I had to whip out the old calculator to try and crunch the numbers and see just how much this mad scribbling machine has done over her career. Yes, Ms. Tellado got me, an English major, to actually reach for the dreaded calculator and do maths. That's like Moses parting the Red Sea as far as I'm concerned. Tellado has written over 4,000 books in her lifetime, mainly novellas that range around 100 to 150 pages each. But even sticking with the steamy, shorter length books, at an average of 125 pages for each book, times 4,000, that comes out to roughly 500,000 pages. A typical MS Word page might be anywhere around 500 to 750 words, depending on the font and type of content, description or dialogue, for example. But even if we're taking the lower estimate at 600 words per page on average, that means that Senora Tellado wrote about 300 million words in her lifetime. Tellado lived until age 81 and was an active writer from when she sold her first novel at age 18 until her death in 2009. Broken down by days, which comes out to 22,995 days, that means that the Spanish author averaged around 13,046 words per day. Simply astounding. Even if you cut that number in half to 6,523, it's still incredibly impressive. That's like 6 average-sized articles you'd find on the web written every day. Every day. For 63 years. It's fair to say that Tellado would have smoked some of the highest performing authors that I mentioned before, like Kuntz and even Steele. All in all, Tellado sold over 400 million books, and she remains the second most read Spanish writer of all time, after Miguel de Cervantes, the Don Quixote guy. And there you have it, 3 superhuman uber authors. Don't dare mention the words ghostwriter and co-authoring to them either. All of their books came from their own keyboard-hardened fingertips. While it may seem like these writers scale the literary equivalent of Mount Everest every year like it's no big deal, their big secret to word mastery is actually very simple. Just good old-fashioned hard work. That's it. They sit down and they punch letters, no matter what, every day, for as long as it takes until the job gets done. There's a sign that hangs in Miss Steele's office that sums it up best. There are no miracles. There is only discipline.